Another big one that happened since the last show, which is the directors came out and spoke on a lot of these things. And honestly, I'm glad they did. Obviously, it's convenient. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, look, our directors talk. No, they came out and spoke when it was convenient for them to speak, when things are good and stuff. I would have liked to have seen them, and maybe it's strategic too, because I'm sure, like, listen, we've said it multiple times here. A lot of times with the team, with the club and the ownership and all that, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't. Maybe it was one of those cases, like, even if they did come out when it was last season and we were doing shit, it would have been really bad regardless. But hey, at least they came out. The timing is convenient. But regardless, I do want to talk about some of the things that they said. And we'll start off with this first one. And honestly, I got to give it to Matt Law. Man's rebuilding his reputation. He got an interview with the directors.
This man said, I got to give it to Matt Law in the year of our Lord 2024.
You said that.
I did.
I
gotta give kudos.
I said the same, bro. Like, I'll be honest, man. You know,
You gotta give him kudos.
Like, no. You know what it is,
I don't like him.
The last 4 to 5 weeks, but this brother's been hella silent. Yeah,
4 to 5 weeks is
You know what I mean? I've been wondering what happened to Matt Law, bro. Then like, I just get an interview like 2 days later. It's like, damn.
It was a good interview from him. So I'm like, all right, you know what? He kind of asked the questions that like were there, like the insistent questions. But one of the first ones that was asked, and I don't even know what the question is, but Lauren Stewart came out and commented and said, this is a club that needs to be in Champions League. It's a club that needs to be competing to win trophies consistently, and we want to do that with a certain way of playing football as well. So that absolutely is the ambition, which I like to hear that. Like, obviously they have the same thought processes as the other Chelsea fans. Obviously this is always going to be something a little bit that is curtailing towards you know, what you want to hear, like very much like Pochettino said to us in the beginning. So obviously Chelsea fans want to hear this, so they're going to say something like this, but I'm sure they actually believe it as well. We continue on. Lauren Stewart saying, going back to the plan, we made some really clear decisions on the way of playing, the football style, and the identity we want to have, and I think it's been shown in the coaching hires. Nah, bro. Nah, it has not been shown in the coaching hires. I gotta disagree with that one completely.
That's the one area where you guys were on complete fraud watch.
Yeah, I was like, nah, dog. Like, Pochettino, I could understand why you may have hired Pochettino, but where was the style and identity with him? And also, like, I don't think they were the ones responsible for hiring Graham Potter, so I don't know if I'm gonna really like hound on them for that. But even Graham Potter, like, he wasn't what style his style wasn't anywhere near identical to Poch's, and that style wasn't anywhere near identical to what Enzo's doing right now. So I think this is a little bit of cope from recruitment. So nah, y'all are on fraud watch for the coach hires, and I'll be honest, like, this is make or break, I think, for them this season. So time will tell. We'll see. Paul and Stanley came out and said, Enzo was somebody we admired and we were keen to bring here. We were really excited by the way he works, aligned with the club and the playing squad, how it's set up to move forwards. And we absolutely see him for the long term. That's definitely how we see it, which is good to hear. I mean, they did give him, I think it was a 3-year contract. Or no, it was 5. A 5-year, right? I don't remember how long Enzo Maresca was signed for.
He's only on a 2-year contract, bro. It's a 2 plus 1.
Yeah,
I thought it was a 5.
No, it was a plus 1.
I'm not kidding. It's a 5 plus 1. It's a 5 plus 1.
Okay, 5 plus. Damn, 5 plus 1 is crazy.
I knew there's a plus 1 in there somewhere, bro.
Yeah. So,
Dory, man.
yeah.
Dory, it's a Dory plus 1. You know, whenever you need the extra inch.
Huh?
It was good with this man, bro.
What do you mean by that?
It was good, bro. It was good. Didn't you got a girlfriend or something, bro? What's with all this, bro? You call her up or something, dog? Like.
I can't lie to you, man. Today, you know, it is, man. Today I'm feeling really relaxed because, like, you know,
He's talking about Hawk.
Bruh.
He's talking about this. He's talking about it's like, bro.
He said he's feeling relaxed. Like,
That's what I'm saying, bro.
you know what I mean? I'm feeling really relaxed today, man. Maybe that's why, you know what I mean?
What?
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? What can I say? I'm a very greedy lad, if you know what I mean.
Let's continue on, bro.
Yes,
Let's just unrelax. On Academy player sales, Lawrence Stewart.
If I'm not relaxed, that means I'm hard. So what are you saying?
Dude, stop talking. Stop
do you mean by that?
talking, bro. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, we got
Oh my
more
God.
more from the interview,
Late
bro.
night Chelsea streams, bro. It's a late night Chelsea stream.
Yo, this is casually after dark right now is crazy.
Casually after dark, man. Like,
Yo,
Jesus.
that might need to be a
Yo,
series
tell
on
him,
its own.
like, what did I want
That
you-
might actually need to be a series on its own, bro. But we'll think about it. I'll get into the hyperbolic time chamber and brainstorm while I'm away. On Academy player sales. Lawrence Stewart says every decision has been performance-based decision, which people don't. People have opinions on because that's football, and absolutely with homegrown players, it's always more emotional. Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley also said this: "There's nothing fans like more than players who are one of our own, and they can sing those songs about those players, and we certainly appreciate that. That's why we continue to invest in the academy and try to make sure the first team and the academy are aligned, so players have the best opportunity to make that step," which I think is really interesting, considering that not too long ago people were saying like there's no room, there's no route from the academy to the first team, and you have them saying like, listen, we're setting them up now so that there is an opportunity to get into the first team. We're making it more systemic, which I think that's what Pep does. And I think that's what, to a certain extent, Jurgen Klopp did as well, where he set up the academy to have a system that, hey, if I need a player, you already know the system. You can come right into the match and have an impact. So we continue on. Paul and Stanley also said, we had a significant offer from one of our academy products this summer that we absolutely chose not to take. There's a lot of misconception out there. It's not just about PSR. It's contractual statuses. It's circumstances. And this could be relating to Colwell. It can be related to Akimpong, it was Akimpong, yeah, that just recently got a link to Real Madrid. It could be related to a lot of stuff. So it's nice to see that it's not all about pure profit. It is, about who is going to fit the system, who is going to be useful for the future, and investing into that system and that future. This thing now, it has to be a well-oiled machine. So good to see that. One more thing too, I think on Paul, I think this is the last tweet I have on this. Yeah, it is. Paul and Stanley, if long contracts was just for PSR, we'd have stopped doing it. That was never at the forefront of the owners' minds when we spoke to them about how we see it working, how we all see it working as a club. Listen, there's a lot of good stuff here. Obviously, I think when it comes to the long-term contracts, I just saw what is it for. It's the long-term contracts. If it's not for PSR, then it must be because of player stability, right? And you don't want to deal with the contracts running out like what we have going on at Liverpool. You have Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, as well as Trent Alexander-Arnold potentially leaving on a free. You don't want to have those situations. So you can at least, with the long-term contracts, get a good chunk out of these players before having to have that discussion about they're going to leave. Or you can have the discussion of adding, okay, let's add another year to your contract, like with Cole Palmer, and having that incentivized structure in there as well. So that, like, if you do hit an incentive, you can have a discussion about rewriting your contract. So,
and also,
it does
by the way,
avoid
like,
those issues.
Another thing as well is like there's a lot of people like, okay, but like if they're on this many year contracts, how are you gonna move them on? Two things. Like if players really thought that this was going to be an issue, they wouldn't be signing these level of this year's contracts. Like very clearly, there's something within the contracts that we don't know of in terms of a release cost, in terms of the player's ability to maybe negotiate a move out of the club if that's what they want. I'm assuming the revised contracts for players like Jackson and Palmer is to change those terms to where like, okay, you're not going to be able to negotiate. We're going to include like an insane release clause. That's a percentage of the years that you have left plus what we believe you're worth to the club, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like though, yeah, they did a year extension for Jackson and for Palmer, but the reality is that that's also their window to be able to renegotiate the terms of the contract, of how they could leave, of how the payout
100%.
might happen, like about contract termination in the future, et cetera, et cetera. Like the whole thing with Jackson and Palmer, I'm assuming is when they signed these long contracts, there was like, even though it's that many years, I'm assuming that there's a very favorable way for Chelsea to terminate these long-term contracts without us having to do like a full payout. For Palmer and Jackson, because they perform well, I'm assuming we gave them an extra year plus we took out those terms. so they're like more
Mhm.
insecure. They feel like, listen, we back you now 100%.
Yeah.
And I agree, you're 100% right, and I think it's like we're going to see more and more clubs, well, they would have if they could have, right, doing these long-term
Yeah.
contracts, because it's
A
very
lot of this
intelligent.
is money as well, right?
A lot, and
we
I was
have
gonna say a lot of
the
it is money. Like,
ability to do it.
right, we put ourselves in a position right now, where if anybody wants to come in for Palmer, they're actually paying like a biblical amount. Like, it's going to break so many
Yeah.
transfer records. It's not even funny.
It has to.
Like, it's going to be even more than what PSG paid for Neymar. And now that's not me saying
It's insane.
that Palmer's worth more. It's just the fact that
Yeah.
how much he has left on his contract.
Exactly.
And that's what people don't understand. Like, we secured our asset, our player. And if anybody, if a point in time comes when we want to let go of him, we're going to get an insane amount of money, and we're going to get
Mhm.
our money's worth. So, I back with the directors. Like, I have to say, by the way, like with this, like the whole structure stuff, like finding all these loopholes, it's excellent, bro. I love it, bro. There's nothing more American than finding loopholes in the law to save money and make money, bro. Yes, sir. Yeehaw,
America.
bro. Yeehaw, America, bro.
No, like I agree with what you're saying, and like, listen, I what I like about this whole thing is that, like, from the beginning, I always said I'm going to give this time. I'm going to give this at least 3 years to see how it works out, because I always knew, like, listen, like, and you guys on the chat know too, like, obviously I don't think you'd be here if you didn't want to listen to the content and listen to, like, you know, at least my perspective on this, and everyone on the panel's perspective on this, and for the most part, everyone on the panel is pretty reasonable, and brings different perspectives on the topics, and I think all of them are reasonable. But, like, point being is that I think most of us and all of us understood this is a long-term project, and maybe results weren't always going to come immediately. And you know, everyone's patience is different than others. I was going to give it 3 years to see what happens. But my point in saying is that, like, now after 3 years, you can look in hindsight and be like, okay, those moves that you made earlier make more sense. The reason you were getting all these players now makes more sense. The reason you were booting out all these players makes more sense. What you're doing structurally with the youth and with the manager hires that you're doing, like Strasbourg, right? They're hiring a similar manager to what Maresca's doing with the youth hires as well. Like, now it makes more sense because you're trying to set it up. And Ahmed, correct me if I'm wrong, like, Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola are set up similar. The academies are set up similarly in a way that, like, if a player were to, you know, go out with injury, they can go into the academy. They're familiar with the setup and the system, and they can immediately just integrate and be familiar with the first team.
So, listen, I'll tell you one thing, firstly. Listen, listen, I'm on demon hours in the morning, afternoon, and dinner.
Oh my god, bro.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Listen, man, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what they say, man? One time, baby, make talking about here. But on a serious note, yeah. So one of the things that happened, I don't know if it happened under Klopp necessarily, but I know for Guardiola, right? Whenever he goes to a new place, bro, the youth literally play the same style as him. So they literally play the same style of thing from like the under 8s to all the way to like the under 21s, under 23s. So they all do, bro. And that way it allows there to be a natural progression where the player can just plug in to the team because he knows how to play, bro.
Exactly. I mean, Ahmed, what did you make of you know, what the director said? Oh shit, I did the wrong thing. What the director said in their interview.
So I will address the part about that they use an empirical evidence in terms of like data rather than emotions, which I think at the end of the day, bro, you know what I always say? I think the saying is clearer heads prevail, right? Clearer heads prevail. And I think in this aspect, that's
True.
probably the best, right? In terms of like what we're trying to do, what we want to do. I think that the idea of having a clearer head is much more better for us as a football team. That way we make correct decisions and not decisions with our hearts. Because at times, if you do decisions with our hearts, that means that some players that we love a lot, we've got to extend their time to an unnecessary requirement. That makes sense.
Sure.
You always want to make people leave when they're on a high. As I
I
always
agree
say.
with that 100%.
So for me, I think for me that's probably, I like that idea. So we're gonna have to wait and see if they stick to that school of thought. But of course, that idea, of course, is good. The idea of wanting to stay in the UCL, that of course, again, at Chelsea, that's a minimum expected. You know what I mean? That's the sort of stuff that gives you like a C in like for you guys in the US. You know what I mean? Let's just see in class. You know what I mean?
You know,
So,
speaking on the directors, one thing like I would have wanted Matt Law to ask, and I know
it's
probably
only part one of
wouldn't.
the interview, brother. This is only part one. We're not. There's a part two that's gonna come out.
I think
Oh,
you really.
okay.
I want to know like if he asked what's going on with the whole sponsorship thing. Like, how do we still not have a front of shirt sponsor at all?
Oh, that's a good question. to ask.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be part two because I don't know if you guys know this is only part one of the interview.
I didn't know it was
Yeah.
for one, but thanks for
'Cause
letting me know.
there were some questions that were bullet pointed that weren't really like they were supposed to be asked about. For example, the tumultuous period last season, the struggles and what they did, and I didn't find any tweets on that, so I'm assuming that's going to be part two. Which again, like good on Matt Law to be able to get that interview.
I want to add a quick point, by the way. Point of correction. Give it to our way, Blue Line. Actually, the data was by a company that Blue Lake was, what's it called? That Blue Co was using actually, and they were the ones that wanted Anthony Gordon, not Tuchel. Tuchel did not want Anthony Gordon. It was the club themselves that used data to try to bring Anthony Gordon to the team.
Yeah, fair and fair enough because like we've seen now with the talent that's coming through and all that like it's looking promising, and whatever they're doing, however they're finding the talents and using the scouts. Listen, there's talent out there to be had, and with the way that we've talked about this, with the way the transfer market's moving and how expensive these signings can get and how ridiculous the inflation cost is, it's like
you know what's crazy, bro? Everybody made fun of us, and now Man United are trying to copy us, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Man United's trying to copy
everybody's
doing.
realizing this is where it's at, bro. Football's getting way too expensive to buy players in their prime. Most teams are not Real Madrid aren't going to be able to afford 4 to 6 players in their prime like all the other teams in the past easily could. So what does that mean? You're gonna have to buy. You're gonna have to start scouting them younger.
And you know what's crazy too is like I'm glad you mentioned that too is that now Chelsea, the Clearlake kind of already saw what was coming in the horizon with the amount of football that was going to happen, and you know there was a lot of criticism even from me of like why are we hiring, why are we getting so many players, like what's the plan for these players, like what is going on, and why we overstocking. Like it looked like for a while it looked like we were obsessed with just signing, and to an extent we still are signing like young prospects and all this stuff. Like it was crazy and it didn't make any sense. But now that we're back in Conference League and now we're seeing the schedule and how we have the Club World Cup at the end of the year as well, like now it makes more sense as to like, okay, now you have a B team and an A team and they're working together, and you can see like now players are getting less injured because both teams are essentially playing once a week. All of our players are essentially playing once a week, which is good because there was a time where we had players playing 3 times a week. Like last year, twice a week. You know, obviously there's still going to be players that play twice a week, right? Because like there are going to be injuries. Like that's inevitable. It's a contact sport. There are going to be injuries. There are going to be muscle strains and so on and so forth. But like at least now it's a lot more manageable, and it can be, and we can recover from it, and we don't, you know, our season isn't over just because we lost a player. Look at Arsenal. Look at Man City. Like, maybe not the best examples, but Man City without Rodri, everyone's talking about the fact that like, oh shit, their season's done. You know, now if Haaland gets hurt, they don't have a backup striker. Pep will find something out, obviously, because he's Pep. But you know, they don't have a striker. They didn't replace anyone for Julian Alvarez. You look at what's going on at Arsenal.
Isn't Manu even out now for United? Like Ugarte as well. Like
I don't know if Manu is out. I think he did play the last game, but I think Ugarte is questionable. But like even then, like if Manu were to go out for United, like they're kind of screwed too because they don't have another talent to put there that's as good as him. Same thing goes for like Arsenal. I was alluding to them. What happened when Odegaard fell? Bro, they became really defensive. Like people were talking about like they don't look as good as last season. Yeah, because Odegaard's not there to connect the attack. Like, you know, they're suffering from the fact that they don't have Odegaard and they don't have anyone to replace him. They got rid of Smith Rowe. You know, Smith Rowe was the only one that I could think of that was closest to that 10 position, that creative 10. So, like, now you're seeing how we're building a squad for multiple tournaments. And
again,
it's
like,
working.
you know, I feel like, you know, again, Marshall, man, you're doing too many tricks, man. We need to wait and see, man. You need to wait and see.
I'm sorry. I'm used to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, bro. You just got to do all the tricks and chain them together. You get the high score. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, this is what I do.